Did you know that the federal government of the United States of America had developed a custom chatbot to help programmers with inside the federal government to use inclusive language in their chats with each other? Were you aware that we spent our tax dollars building such a thing? Well, not only did we build it, but here we are. It's February 2nd, a few weeks after President Trump took office, and it's already been removed. And not just that, but one of the largest collections of programmers within the United States federal government is busy deleting all sorts of crazy stuff off of their GitHub account. And it's super racist. It's super crazy what they're covering up. You know, it's all DEI stuff, right? They're just deleting DEI stuff like crazy. But because it's source control, we can look through all the changes. And so we're going to do that now. All right, first, let's look at the chatbot thing. So back in 2016, they launched this inclusive chatbot thing. They have this little blog post, hacking inclusion. They're hacking inclusion. How we customized a bot to gently correct people who use the word guys. Because they don't want people using the word guys. So let's say you were on the internal Slack chat channel for programmers in the federal government, and you said, "Hey guys," the bot will appear and say, "Did you mean friends? Perhaps you didn't mean guys. Perhaps you meant friends." And then you kept trying to say guys. It said maybe crew, or did you mean posse, or co-workers, or you all? And it would just keep gently reminding you of things that you could say that weren't guys. Well, they expanded that crazily. The number of things that bot was expanded to correct is insane. I'm going to go through a bunch of it because it's all up on GitHub and you can go check it out yourself. But first, a little background on this group. So it's called 18F. So if you go to their website, which if you just search for 18F, you'll find it right away. It's a U.S. government webpage. They call themselves 18F. We help other government agencies build, buy, and share technology products. 18F is a team of designers, software engineers, strategists, and product managers within the General Services Administration. We collaborate with other agencies to fix technical problems, build products, and improve public service through technology. All right, so that's how they describe what they do. And here's the building where they're at. So because it's on their webpage, you can check it out. And you can also check out there a bunch of random things they do. They develop bits of code for the U.S. Forest Service, the Alaska Department of Health and Social Services, the Department of Justice, the Department of State, the Treasury Department, the Tax Court, on and on and on and on. There's a whole bunch of examples of different ways they work with just all sorts of different parts of the United States government. And of course, they use agile methodologies. Of course they do. Now here's the thing. Now that President Trump has taken office and the Department of Government Efficiency, run by Elon Musk, has kicked into gear, the General Services Administration, which is where the 18F programmer group division resides, is now being overseen by someone put in place at the suggestion of Elon Musk. And well, things are going about like you'd expect. Essentially, people are freaking out with inside that organization, and they are deleting DEI stuff like mad. It's rather awesome. So this is the 18F GitHub page. If you just go to GitHub, you can check out all the 18F stuff. Their website, I guess, is 18f.gsa.gov. They have a website there. They have a ton of repositories. They have 1.2 thousand repositories sitting up on GitHub that you can just kind of look through. You can just peruse through all the different things they've got in there. And we're going to look at a couple of them right now. But first, I want to start with the bot, because that bot we were talking about is just too bonkers for words. It's called Charlie. Charlie's an inclusion bot, right? So Charlie is this bot they've developed, and it has on their website a markdown file that lists a large collection of the words that it corrects people on. So if you say certain words, you're going to get slapped on the wrist by the Charlie bot. Of course, not anymore, because Charlie is taken off offline, and it's awesome. But we've all got the code still there, so we can look through and see what kind of code they wrote in order to make sure people are as woke as possible. They've got the terms all organized into categories. The first category being the ableist categories. You're not allowed to say blind to, blinded to, blinded by, or deaf to, right? So you can't say, oh man, I was blinded by this topic, or I was just being really deaf to these particular needs. You can't say that, because that term refers to inattention or ignorance, and blind, deaf, or other visually or hearing impaired people are not inattentive or ignorant. Okay. Blind leading the blind, can't say that. You can't say crazy, insane, or nuts. This term arose as a derogatory reference to people with mental illnesses. We want to avoid stigmatizing mental illness. Okay. You also can't say psycho, schizo, lunatic, psychopath, psychotic, bipolar, manic, or maniac. So you can't say the term bipolar. I thought that was just like a technical term. You can't say it. The federal government employees, these programmers, built software to make sure you don't say the word bipolar. Also spastic, crackhead. How often does that come up? Okay, I understand, blinded to. Okay, you can't say blinded to. You need to be reminded to not say blinded to, because blind people are real and they might be offended by that. All right. At least I understand the logic there. But was it really a thing that was coming up a lot inside the federal government of the United States, where programmers were regularly referring to themselves as crackheads? Like, hey, I just checked out your recent commit, you crackhead. Was that like a thing that came up a lot? I'm wondering. Derp, can't say derp. Ermagerd, can't say ermagerd. Moron, imbecile, daft, dumb, feeble-minded, idiot, or idiotic. Because, well, those are going to make people feel bad about themselves. You also can't say the phrase sanity check. Hey, let's do a sanity check on this before we go ahead and publish it. This term unnecessarily refers to mental health and implies that people with mental illnesses are inferior. I'll move on. And then they've got the racist section. You can't say ghetto or uppity. Uppity's a racist term? I didn't know this. This term is often used to silence black people and imply that they do not have a right to be assertive. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never heard that before in that context. I've heard the phrase uppity used. I've also been called uppity, but I'm not very black. And I know people didn't, they just called me uppity. But all right. Apparently that's a racist thing. Peanut gallery. Can't say peanut gallery. This term refers to people who are seen as rowdy or disruptive, indicating that their viewpoints should be ignored. This term arose from theater performance seating and has racist and classist origins. Gypsy or gypsies. Okay, now come on. You can't say gypsies. Gyp or gypped. No can do. Long time no see. Now, excuse me? I can't say long time no see. This phrase originated as mocking Chinese immigrants' English. It did? Long time no see. Hey, man, long time no see. I don't think I've ever said it in a Chinese accent before. Hello, long time no see. Now I just did. Now I just did. I'm going to get yelled at from someone for that. No can do. This phrase originated as mocking Chinese immigrants' English. No can do. No can do. I mean, I guess I can see like Mr. Miyagi saying no can do, but like, whenever I've said, hey bro, no can do, man. Like, does that sound Chinese to you? I I had no idea. Long time no see, no problemo. Oh, come on. No problemo is mock Spanish and arose as a way of devaluing Spanish in favor of an English-only United States. Okay, listen up, Americans. We gotta make sure we devalue the Spanish. What can we do? What can we do to devalue the Spanish and have an English-only language United States? I got it, sir. Sir, we're gonna create a phrase called no problemo. And everyone's gonna start saying no problemo. And instantly, Spanish will be mocked and devalued. I'm sorry, that's retarded. I'm sure the word retarded is the retarded. Did retarded already come up? If not, it's in here somewhere. I can't say Sherpa, powwow, circle the wagons, but that's just a thing. You can just circle wagons. This term came to be associated with savage Native Americans due to the Hollywood westerns of the 1950s and 60s. We want to avoid reinforcing harmful stereotypes. Instead, they want to tell you to hunker down. All right, well, hunker down's a perfectly fine phrase, but it just makes me want to use circle the wagons more. Oh, by the way, if you, instead of saying no problemo, they say you should say no hey problema. No, I'm not going to do that. Spirit animal. You can't say spirit animal. You can't say that. I thought they would like spirit animals. Totem poles. Totem poles are cool. Off the reservation. Guru. Ninja. Ninja? I'm not allowed to say ninja? What am I going to make the ninjas mad? A ninja was a covert mercenary in feudal Japan. We want to show respect towards cultural traditions. Okay. I'm going to use the word ninja. Oh, man, I'm going to ninja the heck out of that. Or, man, that guy's a real ninja. I'm going to say ninja as much as I want to. And you know what? If any ninja has a problem with it, I'm right here, buddy. Come and get me. You can't. Okay, now we're getting into the stuff that like the Linux Foundation and so many open source organizations and big tech companies have also blacklisted. Oops. Not supposed to say blacklist because that's right here on the list. Can't say blacklist, blacklisted, whitelisted, dark patterns. You know what's interesting? Google just put out an article like a month ago, talking about dark patterns of other companies. About they are attacking other companies you doing dark patterns. So Google apparently is definitely in violation of this list. But whitelist you can't say because this term implies that being white is the only way of being good. We want to avoid this association. No, it's just. Oh my gosh. You can't say master or slave. Well, yeah, we've all been hearing about the master slave thing. Never mind the fact that it's an engineered term. This term is rooted in the enslavement of human beings. We want to avoid slavery references. No, it's not. It's an engineering term. Open the kimono. I don't think I've ever been somewhere where someone said, hey, let's open the kimono on that one. This term, it means share information is what they recommend you say instead of open the kimono. This term arises from the sexualization of Asian women. We want to avoid sexist, racist, and sexual references. Open the kimono. I just don't know that I've ever heard that one. Grandfathered, mumbo jumbo, kowtow. And sexist ones. Guys, of course you can't say guys. That's the classic. If you say guys, well, immediately everyone's super offended. Hysterical. Excuse me? You can't say the word hysterical, meaning hilarious or very funny. You can't say hysterical. Hysteria was a historical medical term used to dismiss and demean women. We want to avoid sexist references. I can't say something's hysterical. If something's very funny, it's friggin' hysterical. Oh my word. Trauma triggering. Okay, post-mortem. because, it could bring up emotions relating to death. So you can't use the word post-mortem. We've been doing post-mortems in the software world and in the engineering world forever. Of course, we're going to still use post-mortem. Drop dead date. You can't say, okay, we've got a drop dead date on this project, because this term can trigger emotions relating to death that employees may want to process at work. So if you say, all right, look, everybody, we got to get out the door pretty soon here. We got a drop dead date of next Wednesday. That makes me think of death. I can't handle next Wednesday because now I'm thinking about death. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. That's a pansy. That's a pansy move right there. Suicide. Can't say suicide. Kill yourself. Oh, and then some swear words. There's an F word and an S word in here. I'm not going to say those out loud because unlike the federal government, I don't have a potty mouth. The F word, you can't say that one. Not because it's a swear word, but because, quote, this can trigger emotions relating to abuse, trauma, and sexual assault that employees may not want to process at work. Never mind the fact that it's just a swear word that you're not supposed to say if you're in a professional setting. You can't say the poo-poo word. The S-poo-poo word, again, not because it's a swear word, but because this term can trigger emotions relating to vulgarity. But they don't mean that kind of vulgarity. They mean the vulgarity that employees may not want to process at work. I think because they don't want to think about poop. I think that's what they're trying to tell me there. So anyway, there's more. If you go check out their GitHub page, it's insane. It's insane. And if you look through all of the pull requests that are coming in, you will find a number of code changes to documentation, to code, a lot of documentation changes, just markdown files galore getting updated for their website and for their internal documents that they use and all sorts of stuff. There's this one right here, which came in 10 hours ago, about 11 hours ago now, removing more DEI stuff. No description provided. He requested a review from a team as a code owner. All right, so it looks like someone named Eugene maybe put that in there, and that included a ton of markdown files getting updated, and it was all over the map, and it was stuff that you'd expect considering all the executive orders and everything coming down from President Trump, where they have to remove the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. They can't reference it anymore. It can't be part of the hiring and firing processes. Everything has to be merit-based now. Thank heavens. So you can imagine it's all that sort of stuff. Like here, it's removing stuff from their one-on-ones. One-on-ones, they were so a one-on-one meeting, for those of you who don't work in industry that has one-on-ones, is just a meeting with your boss. It's just you and your immediate lead chatting about stuff. So a lot of times companies will have like a weekly or whatever one-on-one with your boss, right? Well, they had, up until just today, conversations about diversity and inclusion. They highly values diversity and inclusion, but talking about these topics can be difficult, especially for those who are new topics, on and on and on, right? So they're removing a bunch of these sorts of things. We design and operate from a foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion, accessibility, justice, and belonging in all things we do, and on and on and on and on, over and over again. It's just a ton of stuff in here. But a couple of interesting tidbits, though. Two things that I found really interesting. The first was that there's a number of references to the hiring and firing metrics related to diversity and inclusion. Now, we don't have those documents, though. And here's what's crazy about this. Here's what's crazy. So they talk about leveraging diversity metrics guide and the supervisory performance plans must include the leveraging diversity measure. Okay. They talk about this a few times, basically where when you're hiring someone, promoting someone, or evaluating someone's performance, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion topics are a core part or a core metric for these federal government programmers in whether they get hired, whether they get promoted, etc. Not how good they were at their job, but their skin color or how many check boxes on the DEI checkbox list they have. But what's really weird is it's in a Google Doc. We have a link to a Google document, which I was not able to access. It's a private Google document that I think is just shared out. If anyone has access to that Google document, please send me a copy. I'd like to see it. There's also a bunch of stuff in there about pronouns. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of things about pronouns and whatnot. And then there's also stuff in there about conferences, specifically like conferences and training events. And I think this is really fascinating because if you look at the changes in GitHub for the stuff relating to conferences and training events, you'll notice quickly that one of those things called inclusive event pillars.markdown is deleted entirely. And they deleted the diff file, right? So if you go to GitHub and you go to this little code check-in they've got here, you cannot load the diff because the file was deleted. You look around, you can still find the file, though. They just tried to cover their tracks. I mean, someone said, no, I don't want people looking at what we changed here, which was everything. We don't want to call attention to it, so they deleted the entire diff. But the file is still there if you roll back a ways. So we've got here building blocks of inclusive events. Now they call out specifically that there should be no all white or all male panels at events. So they actually have a rule in this federal government programming team that you cannot have an event, you cannot be at an event where there is an all male or all white group on stage, answering questions, doing Q&As, that sort of thing. You can't have an all male or all white panel. That's crazy. I mean, that's nuts. I mean, it's just psychotically racist. And so they go in to talk about that and how if you're asked to be in an event and it looks like there's going to be a panel that's all male or all white, that you should just simply decline and you should not go unless they agree to put a trans person in your place or something like that. It's crazy. They want to have these events like that. They also have these affinity groups. And affinity groups is kind of a weird way to put it, but it's basically just like clubs, little mini clubs inside the federal government of programmers. What's fascinating are the groups that they have. They have the women group, but they spell women WOMXN, which just makes me hate everyone in the federal government. They've got an LGBTQIAAP group for anyone who identifies as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, or pansexual. There's a neurodiversity group and the whatnot. And then you scroll down a little bit, and then there's some invite-only groups. And I read through this list, and it's kind of friggin' weird. So they've got several lists. They've got a Latinx group with the X because, gotta have the Latinx with the X, which is only available to people who identify as Latinx. They've got an Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander group. Again, you have to identify as part of those groups to be in it. They've got a working while black group, which is a space just for black people. right? You have to be black. You don't have, right? I don't know if it's identify as black or someone else thinks you're black enough. I don't know, but you have to be black, right? They've got a people with disabilities group where you have to have a disability. They've got a not your dude group where you have to be basically just not a dude. Like you have to be a woman, a trans woman, meaning a man who thinks he's a lady, a lady who thinks she's a man, a non-binary person or something along those lines, right? Anything other than just, a man. Now, all of these groups, you have to be a certain type in order to be in. And then they've got a Jewish group. And this one caught my eye because it has very different rules than the rest. A place for employees that consider themselves Jewish, Jew-ish, Jew-curious, culturally Jewish, or anything else. So they have so all the different groups in there, if you want to be in the black group, you got to be black. If you want to be in the Latinx group, you got to be Latinx. But if you want to be in the Jewish group, apparently you can be not Jewish because anything is fine. I found that a little weird. Another interesting little tidbit here is if you use the search engine on their site to go through just their published pages for the 18F group, this federal programming department, there are still 126 results for the word diversity and more for inclusion and whatnot. So they've clearly still got a lot of check-ins to go through, and I've clearly still got a lot more stuff I want to pour through. Now what's nice about all this is it does tell you that things are changing, right? I mean, we are seeing changes for the better happening, but we also see people inside the federal government that are really, really ticked off. And everything I'm hearing, they're not too happy with Elon and Elon's manager that he put in place over them right now. But so what? Right? If we're moving towards a meritocracy in the software development side of things, that's great. Now, I also notice we see a lot of similarities in the weird, kind of psychotic, racist, sexist, bizarre DEI stuff that come out of this federal group. The same sort of stuff that we see at Red Hat, IBM, Microsoft, the Linux Foundation, multiple open source Linuxy projects. We're seeing a lot of it just all throughout the tech industry. So hopefully we see a trickle-down effect. Hopefully we see more impact on other companies, on their other projects and foundations because of what's happening in the federal government here. But we'll see. I mean, it's certainly interesting and fun to watch just the same. Thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers for keeping the Lunduke Journal's lights on. You allow us to run without taking any money from any company or organization at all. We are funded entirely because of you. And so we can do all this reporting without fear of being canceled. Go to lunduke.com. Lots of ways to watch and listen and read and subscribe and support and all that stuff. Lunduke.com, it's all there. And if you would like to become a whistleblower, and you work at the federal government and you want to blow the whistle on the DEI stuff, you work at, Microsoft or Amazon or IBM or any of these big tech companies or the big foundations like Mozilla and others, go to lunduke.com. There's a little Become a Tech Whistleblower link right there, which will walk you through some of the options for getting a hold of the Lunduke Journal for becoming a whistleblower and still maintaining a certain level of anonymity. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.